This presentation will assist you in understanding your scan report. DEXA makes various assumptions about the body. The two of the important ones are the water and brain tissue. DEXA assumes a hydration constant in the body of 73.2%, so every time you're scanned it sees you with the same water content every time. This is particularly important for standardization of the scan results and limiting variability. DEXA sees the brain as fat tissue, and you'll see that in your report the head will have approximately 19 to 21% body fat or fat tissue, but the assumption is that the brain is 17% of this total. To reduce scan variability, it's important to reduce what's called biological variability. Drinking more than 2 litres of water prior to a scan, depleting glycogen stores prior to a scan through exercise, or even perhaps through a couple of days of low carbohydrate eating prior to a scan will impact on your glycogen stores. Movement. Large metal objects on the individual will need to be removed as they will increase bone mass. And also body thickness will impact upon your scan result. DEXA provides you with bone mineral density measurement, an accurate body fat measurement, an accurate muscle mass measurement or lean mass measurement, muscle imbalance check, and a check of your central abdominal fat, which is essentially a risk assessment or an estimate of what is called visceral fat. When we look at your bone mineral density, you will see a graph like this on your report. This line through the middle here represents the average. If you're sitting in this light blue area, your bone density is above average for your age, and below this line here, it represents that your bone density is below average for your age. On the report, you'll see BMC, and that is bone mineral content, at approximately 2 kilos. And you can see over here some further information that will assist you in comparing yourself to others. Bone mineral density is simply your bone mineral content divided by area, and it is measured in grams per centimetre squared. A normal bone density is approximately 1 gram per centimetre squared. An important measurement on your report is that of the lumbar spine. Have a look at what your bone density is in the lumbar spine. If it's below 0.85, then we may need to refer you back to your GP for a diagnostic scan of the lumbar spine and the femoral neck. When we examine the soft tissue, this is the table that represents all that information. Let's go through that. Bone mineral content, again, is 2 kilograms in this particular individual. Fat mass in grams or kilograms is 25.1 kilos. Lean tissue mass is 40.9 kilograms. This also is essentially your muscle mass. Lean tissue plus BMC represents what we call your fat-free mass. This is all the tissue in your body except fat at 42.9 kilograms. Fat mass plus fat-free mass equals your total mass or weight at 61.8 kilograms, 68.1 kilograms, and your body fat percentage is at 36.9%. On your report, you'll also see these pictures. You can see here the yellow represents the fat tissue, the red represents your lean tissue or muscle tissue, and the blue, obviously, bone tissue. On this side here, we get 2 important areas. The A represents the android fat mass, and the G represents the gynoid fat mass. Android fat is largely present in males, and gynoid fat is largely present in women. But they provide 2 important areas for comparison when you have your second or third scan. You'll also see this particular graph on your report, and that shows total body percentage fat. This line through the middle here represents the average. This particular individual is slightly below average, and if your result was anywhere in the light blue, that would indicate that you are above average with respect to your total body percentage fat. You'll also see on your report that we do not provide any information on BMI, or your body mass index. The reason for this is shown on this slide, where we have a DEXA scan of two individuals with the same body mass index of 31.7. But you can see here that muscle mass is very different between the two, fat mass is very different between the two, and their percent body fat is also very different between the two, yet they still carry the same BMI. Body mass index does not take into account the individual's muscle mass, and therefore it's flawed. BMI should not be used on an individual. Now, if we look at fat mass and percent body fat in more detail. So this column here represents total body fat. You can see here now that we have 1.8 kilos in the left arm, 1.6 in the right arm, 10.9 kilos in the trunk, which represents the head, or the neck, sorry, to the top of the pelvis. We have 4.5 kilos in the left leg and 5.2 kilos in the right leg. And then we have your percent fat. Total body percentage fat is 36.9%. And you can see here we also have percentages for each area of the body: arms, trunk and legs. Use this information down here to help compare yourself to others. Let's have a look at muscle or lean mass. Lean tissue or muscle tissue again provides us with a measure of your muscle mass in the left arm, right arm, trunk, left leg and right leg. And then we also have a look at your fat-free mass in your left arm, right arm, trunk, left leg and right leg. And we have totals down the bottom here. Have a look down here to compare yourself to others. One of the nice parts about the DEXA scan is it provides us with a measure of muscle imbalance or symmetry. You can see in this individual they have very similar amounts of muscle mass in the left and right arm, and there is approximately a 700 gram difference between the left and right leg. And as we suggest, a normal dominance difference in the arms is about 200 grams difference. And if the difference is greater than around 10% in the legs, then you should also look at improving your muscle symmetry. One of the very important measures, particularly in the media these days, is that of central abdominal fat or visceral fat. And there's various imaging techniques such as MRI and computer tomography that correlate very highly with DEXA. One of the important things you need to know is that DEXA does not measure visceral fat. It estimates visceral fat. And that's the reason I have put one of my old slides here of some of the work I used to do with MRI. You can see here the subcutaneous fat in the red and the visceral fat in the green. Now, if we take a scan here from, like DEXA does, from your back through to the front of the body, it's going to not only collect some of this subcutaneous fat and visceral fat on the way through, but also this subcutaneous fat on the way out. So it cannot just selectively measure the green stuff as shown here. And that's very important to remember. It is an estimate of visceral fat in comparison to a number of research studies. Now, on our reports, that is a measure through here, through the subregion R1. High risk in males is when there is more than a kilo of fat in that area, and low risk in males for type 2 diabetes and heart disease is below 900 grams. So this person is effectively, if they were male, would be moderate risk. In women, high risk is over a kilo and low risk is below 600 grams. This ends the presentation.